Terrasoft Solutions, which created Yellow Dog Linux and supported some of the fastest computers in the world. In his next career, Kai earned a Master of Science degree in Applied Mathematics from the University of Cape Town, South Africa, where he focused on an application of machine learning techniques to astronomy. He's currently a filmmaker, researcher, and writer. His documentary work has appeared on the National Science Foundation's educational channels, the Discovery Channel, Space.com, the New Scientist website, and PBS. He was a crew member of the Mars Society's Mars Desert Research Station in 2014, and will be installing a telescope in Tanzania's first astronomical observatory in January. He's currently a visiting scientist at LIGO and leads a team in the development of the work that he's going to tell us about tonight. Please give a warm welcome to Kai Staats.
Thank you, Mark. You guys have been a wonderful host. I want to start the evening by reflecting on a time when I was president of the Phoenix Astronomical Society when I was 17 or 18 years old. And those are the days when Gene and Carolyn Shoemaker graced our club on a regular basis. And we struggled to have people attend sometimes, kind of the way people struggle to find people to fill the pews at the church. And what you're doing here, just from what I've observed, is amazing. I'm really impressed with the level of engagement, the outreach, the volunteer opportunities. You guys are incredible. And if I could rewind and learn from you, we would have had a much more dynamic club. So please keep it up. Please keep doing what you're doing. It's absolutely astounding. I won't be surprised if the next time I visit you have even more members. So thank you for that. We're going to start, actually let me start my recorder. I was going to start my audio after that. Just a moment. Okay. So we're going to start with something a little bit odd. We're going to go grocery shopping. You're going to think this is strange. We're going to start with this young lady over here because she threatened to fall asleep during my talk. So you get the onions. Unless you're allergic to onions. No, okay, good. I'll explain this later, trust me. Who likes strawberries? I knew it was going to be. You get the strawberries. If you're really hungry, you can have some. They're washed. Who likes bagels? Bagels. Okay, should I toss it? Okay, we'll toss it right here. You can hand it back. There we go. Sweet potatoes. Oh my gosh, I don't want to throw sweet potatoes. We're going to walk in and I could hit somebody in the head. I have two of these, so we can give another one. Who else? You raise your hand for sweet potato? Okay, sweet potato. You guys probably wonder what in the world is going on. Okay, tomatoes. Excellent. You get the tomatoes. If you try to eat those, it might get a little messy, and the manager of the planetarium might get a little upset. The last one we have is cabbage. Not the most exciting, but if you put it with the tomatoes and the onions, you get something exciting. Who wants cabbage? Notice that there's no hands going up. Okay, do the cabbage. Now you're going to have to sit in suspense for a little bit to try to figure out why I just handed out a bunch of grocery items. But before we get there, we're going to talk a little bit about long-term off-world habitation. And I just today crossed off the word challenges and replaced it with the word adventure. And I think sometimes we default to talking about the hard things. And everything's hard. And the trick is to find joy and adventure in the hard stuff. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be fun. Right? If it wasn't hard, it would be easy, and then we'd just be doing it and you'd be bored. So the challenge of living off of this planet is tremendous. Otherwise, we'd already be doing it. And we're going to talk tonight about what that means. What are some of those challenges? I'm going to not fill your head with facts and figures. We're going to have an engaging conversation about midway through. And we're just really going to think about what it means to leave our home and try to build a home somewhere else, and set aside all the science fiction, set aside all the times that Captain Picard asked for Earl Grey and it just appears. We can't do that yet. Maybe next year, but so far we can't. Oops. Okay, there we go. So this is a rendering by a friend of mine named Brian Biosphere, who is one of the world's leading space habitat artists and designers. And I would encourage you to go to his website, spacehabs.com. Absolutely breathtaking artwork. This is probably something that most of us have seen recently, something like this, or something we've conceived of as what it might be like to live on Mars. And there are some holes in this concept, but it's not bad. It's not bad. We're going to talk about what it means to get to just this level of habitation. So we're going to start with the box. And if we had a box here on the ground, just something about this big, and if that box were sealed, sealed me in so it's a perfect cube, right? So now I'm in this cube. And we seal the cube, so there's nothing coming in and out. What's going to happen? Suffocate, right? Eventually, I'm not going to be able to take any more, I'm not going to find any more oxygen in the air. It won't happen immediately, but within, who knows, maybe 20, 30, 50, or 100 breaths, I'll find myself breathing more carbon dioxide than I want, getting lightheaded, getting a little dizzy, eventually sleepy, and passing out. That's not good. So air. Air is the first thing we have to worry about. Let's make the box a little bit bigger. Let's give myself a little more time. Maybe it's not directly related to this box, but maybe the box is big enough now that I have a day of air. And if I have a day of air, what's the next thing I'm going to be concerned about? Water toilet, maybe. Okay, we're getting there. Probably want to drink something before, then we have to go to the toilet. So yes, water. Exactly. And now let's make the box a little bit bigger. Oops. And now we have enough air, we have enough water to last maybe a week. What's the next thing we're worried about? Food, exactly. Food. Now, that's life support. At some point, we have to support the human or humans that are inside these boxes, because that's exactly what it's going to be like. On the way there, on the way back, and while we're on Mars or on the moon or even in a free space spacecraft, we are in boxes. They might be not shaped like boxes, but essentially they are sealed environments in which nothing gets in and nothing gets out. So what are we missing? The gentleman over here said it. Sanitation. Yes, the toilet. So what do we? Now we have waste products as well. Some of those waste products we can recycle more easily than others. In the Martian, he was able to recycle, reuse human waste. Does anyone see a problem in, scientifically, what would be the problem with using human waste and putting it into regolith? Regolith means rock material that has no biological organisms at all. It's just dirt.
Bacteria wouldn't survive.
One more time?
The bacteria wouldn't survive.
Bacteria might not survive, correct? I mean, even if you have an environment. So what kinds of enzymes and bacteria are coming out of your gut through your waste product? Those are enzymes and bacteria designed to digest your food in an anaerobic environment. So if this is an anaerobic environment, maybe, but they're not designed to break down soil. They're not designed to break down dirt and create soil. I need to look this up and talk to some experts, but I don't think that would actually work. I could be wrong. If there's an expert in the room on this, please correct me or jump in. But I think you need more than this, and that's part of the conversation. It's a good start, but when we use waste products of any sort from any animal, it's not the waste product itself that's digesting the rock. It's the enzymes and bacteria that are digesting the waste product to create the energy to fuel the plants. So sorry, I kind of took part of the next part of the movie. So how do we sustain human life in a hostile, off-world environment? We have choice. We can do it mechanically, which is what we've represented with the gears, or we can do it biologically, which we represent with plants. So currently, all systems, the International Space Station, the Space Shuttle, Mir, Soyuz, all the different space stations we've had orbiting our planet have all been mechanical. Yes, there have been plants on board, but they didn't sustain human life. They've all been mechanical, and that's called ECLIS, Environmental Control and Life Support Systems. So air, water, and food, temperature and atmospheric pressure, waste products too, are all at some level managed or monitored by mechanical systems. The mechanical systems are not producing the food, of course. We bring the food with us, freeze-dried, MREs, and astronaut. How many of you had astronaut ice cream when you were a kid? No, it really didn't taste very good, but it was kind of fun to eat. So this is what a diagram that shows, and I'm going to look at it with you if you don't mind. This is a diagram that shows the process by which a mechanical ECLIS environment manages all of the systems to keep humans alive. So it's really fun to look at. You can look at it and say, well, use the laser pointer here. So we can look at temperature and humidity control. Humidity is nothing more than moisture in the air, and that comes down to the potable water processor, right? And that provides potable water, which comes back out as wastewater and continues to what? Oh, the oxygen generator. Well, how do you get oxygen out of water? You zap it, right? You zap electricity, you get oxygen out of water, the hydrogen you throw off into space. So we're actually taking humidity out of the air from our breath, processing it, drinking it, removing it as waste, and then electrolyzing it and producing oxygen that we breathe. That goes back into us. We breathe out humidity around and around and around. It's really fun studying this to see how that works. This is a very simplified diagram. That's how systems currently work. It's how it's worked on the on submarines, nuclear submarines as well. Any system in which people are sealed in for long periods of time have something similar to this. They have to. Anyone recognize this? Yes, the Krebs cycle, exactly. It's a simplified version. And I'm not an expert in this, so I'm not going to stay on this slide long enough to be recognizing I'm really not an expert in this. But these are the basics. Oxygen is sugar in, C6H12O6 is glucose. And you get water and carbon dioxide and energy. An energy transport molecule, ATP, is a highly flexible transport molecule that can move energy through our cells. It gets used over and over and over and over again. It never gets tired, which is amazing. So this is a ground-based copy of the closed ecosystem, the ECLIS modules on the International Space Station. Doesn't look very friendly, does it? It's not like a garden at all. But it works. And I've talked to a conference called ICES, the International Conference on Environmental Systems. Wonderful conference if you ever had a chance to attend. NASA experts in every room and every talk. And the deputy director of the ECLIS module on the International Space Station was very approachable and was able to talk to him. And he gave a talk and he said that the fans are breaking down all the time because it wasn't designed to support 8 people. And so the fan that moves the air through the cleaning system is running, I forget what he said, 10 times faster than it was designed to. So the bearings are wearing out, the fan's breaking down, and it cost them something like $50,000 to replace it every time. So these systems require human intervention, human management. You always have to stay on top of it. If one thing goes down, people's lives are in danger. Bioregenerative life support system. So this is where we come back to the plants. How can we do something with plants instead? And the official definition is an artificial ecosystem with complex symbiotic relationships among higher order plants, animals, and microorganisms. So the very first study of this was done by the Russians. The Russians were fantastic with their research in the 70s, long before we were able to jump into the foray. So in 1971, in Salyut 1, they had flax, leeks, onion, and cabbage. In 1975, the Soviets ate their very first vegetables grown in space. And the cosmonaut Ryulin said that tending to the garden helped him cope with the depression of long-term space voyages. In 1982, 11 years later, in Salyut 7, a piece of which became the International Space Station, the first time seeds produced plants, flowers, and fertile seeds in microgravity. So it took 11 years to take a seed, plant it in the soil, grow a plant, harvest the seeds that would produce fertile offspring, that would produce another plant. 11 years of experiments, dozens of experiments, and many, many failures and many things that went wrong. 11 years, 40 years of experiments before we really begin to understand how to make this happen. Now this is microgravity, which makes it a bit harder. I'll explain that in a bit. So of course the experiments continue on the Mir, the Space Shuttle, and ISS. There's pages and pages and pages. There's a document I have if you're interested in seeing it later. It's about a 20-page document that has the entire history of this process. And of course this is on the International Space Station now, or not now, but a few years ago. So these experiments are not big. They don't have giant forests of trees around them. The goal is just to get a few things to grow, and they often bring them back to Earth and compare them with the ones that they usually have plants, identical plants growing on Earth that were planted on the exact same day at the same time, and they grow them together to see how they fare against each other when they compare them again. So here's some of the challenges. Light. Your light is all mostly artificial. The Russians did find, however, that when they placed their growing boxes next to the window of their spacecraft, it did far better than under artificial light only. And that's been mitigated to some degree, but of course it's free light. You don't have to pay for it. It doesn't cost anything in terms of electricity. You have to manage the CO2. You have to manage the water, the humidity levels. You have to manage the pH level and the temperature. Many, many times in the early experiments, the lights were too hot and they actually burnt the plants. Sounds simple enough, but when you're running an experiment in which you don't really have a chance of modifying the experiment once it's in orbit, these things happen. Getting water to the roots in microgravity. Soil is not down. The plant is not growing up. How do you even hold the soil in place, let alone get water to move through it down to the roots? Big challenges. Roots need oxygen. If you don't get oxygen to the roots, they die. Providing adequate ventilation. There's ethylene buildup in the soil from certain kinds of seeds that basically create toxic environments around themselves if there aren't other things in the soil to remove that. Pathogen contamination, even if you sterilize the soil before the start of the experiment. We are pathogen zoos. We have 1 billion bacteria per square inch in our body. Anything we touch is going to take that, and some of the plants can be affected by that. And there's a case of a Russian who was very depressed and a little bit upset with ground control, so he ate the entire experiment. So the best combination is both. You can see